Okay, how's that for sound? Can everyone hear me? That a little bit louder? Okay. Thank you all. When Justine invited me to come to this event, I don't think our family realized the emotional experience of seeing all those bikes come into this place, and we're just overwhelmed with love and heartfelt joy to be here today and honored to be able to share our story. On June 20th, 2016, in the emergency department right across the parking lot, we discovered that the growing pains our daughter Thea was having in her right leg were in fact the symptoms of a rare form of bone cancer called Ewing's sarcoma. We would shortly find out that the cancer had metastasized to her lungs, creating greater disillusionment and fear in our hearts, knowing that her already daunting battle would be more than we could ever have imagined. But we were grateful because our doctors had a plan and they were going to throw everything they possibly could at this cancer to try and save our daughter. And so began our hopeful and desperate adventures at the Alberta Children's Hospital. It was a place that became known at our house as the Lego Hotel. Treatment was hard. Our daughter Thea traded hair for hats and wigs and playground time for days and nights at the hospital. And while she endured some incredibly painful and exhausting days, her optimism and strength took on superhero proportions. After 6 months of treatment, including intensive chemotherapy and 35 rounds of radiation, it was explained to us that Thea's lung tumors were not disappearing, but in fact growing on treatment. A lung surgery came next. The cancer was extremely aggressive, and we were not winning the battle. I've often described Thea as the happiest sick kid you could ever meet. If she was troubled or worried about her prognosis, she rarely showed it. What she cared about most was being 8, being at school and being with her friends and family. The doctors encouraged us to make the most of our time while Thea was feeling good, so we became intensely focused on providing Thea the means to do whatever she could with whatever energy and determination and imagination she had, knowing logically where we were headed, but not allowing our hearts to believe it. We went into love in overdrive mode. And so we did it all. Over the next few months, we explored Disneyland and spent family time at the lake. We traveled to Ireland and experienced castle living. Thea kissed the Blarney Stone, not that she needed to be granted the gift of the gab. We rode horses and we went to the ocean. We even made a trip to Holland, where Thea and Bryn met for the first time their cousins and their great aunts and uncles, and it was such a special time. But it was on the final day of that trip that Thea began experiencing some pain and a fever that we immediately investigated. Upon our return home, things had taken a turn. Within days, Patrick and I found ourselves sitting with the palliative care team at the Rotary Flames House as our oncology team discussed Thea's health and her prognosis. And all I really remember about that day is being angry. We had received our share of bad news, but that day I could only think, so we're giving up? And I just looked at these people, the people that were going to help our child pass away, and I was so angry. Of course, what we quickly learned in the days and weeks that followed was that those were the people that were going to help Thea live. To live as fully and as richly and as beautifully as she could for as long as she could, and she did. Thea was able to enjoy the majority of her summer at home, thanks to our very experienced team of palliative care physicians who managed the delicate balance between controlling her pain and having her feel well enough to function coherently. In August, we faced another setback as Thea's pain had become uncontrollable and scans had discovered that her cancer had spread to her spine. Once again, our team regrouped, rallied, and readjusted her pain regime. This meant multiple pumps and lines and pokes into her body, and oh yes, 5 more rounds of radiation. And if you can believe this, on day 3 of her radiation treatment, on 4 pumps of pain medications, with her amazing nurse from the Rotary Flames House as our medical escort, Thea was able to make it to see Garth Brooks at the Saddle Dome. It was her very first concert. She was elated and over the moon to be there in her wheelchair that we decorated in lights, and with her "My First Concert" sign in her hand. School began in September, and it was the place where Thea found her greatest joy. Once again, the team figured out ways to make sure that she got to school that very first day and as many days as possible after. It was the selfless dedication and diligent work of the Rotary Flames House medical team in those final months and days of her life that allowed her to wall climb at her sister's birthday party, attend Hockey Fights Cancer Night with her favorite Calgary Flames, enjoy her favorite pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving at home, attend Pinkalicious the Musical, go to a brownie sleepover at the Flip Factory, glam it up in a limousine with her dad and sister and friends, and dance the night away at the Daddy-Daughter Gala, attend the Rotary Flames House Halloween parties and make it out trick-or-treating with the neighbors. Thea's positive determination was one of her many gifts, and she was determined to make it to school for the Remembrance Day ceremony, where her grade 3 choir was to sing and sign the song "Let There Be Peace on Earth." Her little body was so tired, but much to Patrick and my chagrin, she was not going to take "stay home and rest" as an answer. It was a Friday morning, and Patrick carried her into school and got her settled, and amazingly enough, Thea stood on stage with her classmates to belt out the song that she'd been rehearsing for weeks in front of her school and family members. And some of her caregivers from the Rotary Flames House who had come to cheer her on. It was truly a magical moment. That afternoon, she played with her friends on the school playground for the very last time, as it was 3 days later that Thea passed away. She did so in my arms at our second home, the Rotary Flames House, surrounded by her family in peace and in dignity and beauty. Time and time again, Thea's medical team told us how amazed they were that our feisty and spirited daughter continued to do things that her scans indicated she could not do. And Thea was resilient, exceptional in her fearlessness, confident, optimistic, and had a wisdom that far exceeded her 8 years. And as we reflect on Thea and our journey, we've come to understand that she could not have held on and lived so fully and so joyfully without the remarkable care she received from the team at the Rotary Flames House. Thea's name means Goddess of Light, the sun, the moon, and the dawn, and she will continue to be our bright and shining light and a beacon for the countless many whose hearts she's touched. We believe that the Rotary Flames House provides that same kind of light for families that in their darkest days, during heartbreaking struggles and unimaginable grief, they too will find a place where comfort and peace can be found. Patrick, Bryn, and I are so grateful to each of you who are here today for the part that you have played in making this sacred place a possibility for families. It gave us time, and it gave us quality, it gave us life, and it means everything to us. Thank you.